Okay, well, good day, everyone. We are on another episode of God Talks, and today we are having a former student of one of my classes. We are having Mr. Joan Adrian Tabalanza. Hi there, Joan. Can I call you Joan or Adrian? How would you like to be addressed?
Sir, call me by your name, please.
That's I think that's a movie. I haven't seen that movie, but they say that's a really nice movie.
It
Uh,
is.
okay, well,
Just call
Adrian,
me Joan. Just call me Joan.
Joan. Okay, Joan. Well, it's again, it's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, so I'm Joan Adrian Tabalanza. I've been an English teacher for more than 10 years, and I consider myself a philomath or a lover of learning. And with regard to the issue at hand, meaning the LGBT community, of course, I consider myself gay, and I've been like this since my childhood days. And it's, of course, there's a mix of pros and cons to being gay and member of the LGBT community. But let me answer the question. So have I always been certain of myself? No, definitely not. I just learned to gain more confidence in expressing my thoughts and feelings based on my experiences in the past. Meaning to say the sad, depressing experiences. So it's not innate in me. Um, I just learned it through over the years to be confident. And of course, there are strategies that I'm using to be confident. One of which is um, pretension. And
Pretension.
yes,
What
sometimes you just have to pretend.
what do you mean by this?
And
You're pretending to be confident. That doesn't sound confident at all. But
it
can you
doesn't sound,
elaborate?
yeah,
Can you elaborate on that, Joan?
it, it is counterintuitive if you think about it. But maybe you have heard of the phrase or the expression, um, fake it till you make it. I have heard of that expression in one of the TED Talks before, and I tried to apply that expression or that strategy, and it worked. It worked for me, especially when I was, when I was doing some interviews with employers. So I would just pretend that I knew what I was talking about, and it worked because I was able to remember the words. I was able to remember what I was supposed to say, and I think this is also proven by research. If you prime yourself, or if you psych yourself that you know what to do, you know what to answer, it helps the brain process the pro it helps the brain process the information stored in your long-term memory. So I think that tip is a good one.
You know,
But
I
of course, yeah.
but I think you're making a lot of sense here. And but what I want to know is that are you escaping particularly all the worries about the public, treatment if they figure out that this person I'm talking to is gay? Is that part of the reality that you're trying to escape in order to gain confidence?
That's a complex question. Am I trying to escape? Well, I guess in one way, I'm trying to escape it. I'm trying to build my own reality. That it should have been like this. It should have been like that. There should have been no discrimination against LGBT community members. However, reality really sucks. It really hurts.
Okay.
And when I was, for example, when I was in Abu Dhabi as a language trainer, most of my students were engineers. And if you know Korean culture, the men would actually go to the military service for 2 years,
Yeah.
and they would train, and then they would probably uh, absorb all the macho mentality, and then they would demonstrate that in whatever fields after. So when I was teaching them, I was really flooded with a lot of masculine or masculinity discourses. So being the outsider in that community, I cannot bend their reality because I was alone. I had to adjust. And one of the adjustments I made was pretend that I was not gay. Pretend that I was not gay, or at least not push my own agenda that gays are humans too, that you shouldn't really be scared of gays. So
So
yes.
So it's also quite interesting in your video when you were, I think, when you were talking about these experiences that you've had abroad, that you were pretending, to sound
Yeah.
like them, to act like them, and it's to me it's always interesting. What do you think are we? I mean, what's your stereotype of us straight men? How do you think are you gonna like copy us? Because we've got bad stereotypes of you by the comedies of Joey De Leon, and that's really
Right.
messed up. But it's a reality, and it's a messed up reality, and that's the stereotype that we have on gays. But what's your stereotype on us? How did you think that, oh, this is manly and this is what I'm gonna do? Can you share a bit of that, please?
I guess I can show you the less nuanced stereotype I've of men. So of course men are womanizers. They love girls. They love
Jesus
women. So
Christ, I am offended by
isn't
that.
it true?
I am deeply offended by that. I have never cheated on my wife yet. No, I'm
So
kidding.
I guess
Is she around? No, she's not here. She's downstairs. No, okay, so that's one stereotype that you have,
right.
that straight men, heterosexual men, are
Mm,
womanizers. Where did you
yeah.
get that idea? Jesus Christ, where did you get that idea?
I know, right?
Wha-
I
wha-
guess so. You're an exception to the rule.
well,
So and it,
so far. No, I'm kidding. Okay. Now I feel pressured. I think I should womanize in order to affirm this stereotype. No, I'm kidding. Uh, okay, so that's number one. I really feel bad about that. But you know what? I'm,
mm,
I'm not disagreeing with you, though. I feel bad, of course, because it has some moral judgment. But I don't
mm,
think I can disagree with you on that. I mean,
mm,
of course, these people are in my circles and I know what's going on. So, okay, maybe you have kind of a point there. Maybe it's a bit bitter to my taste, but it's something that's really out there. So that's number one. Well, how do you pretend to be a womanizer? That's also an interesting thing.
oh, I wouldn't do it in action though. I would only do it in words because
Okay.
I think I'm good at words.
Okay. Well,
So I would only talk about, oh, I've had several girlfriends in the past, and I made love to them, even though deep inside I was yeah, this I was disgusted by my own words.
but
But it had to be done.
have you had girlfriends in the past, if I may ask?
No.
Okay, so that was really lying. I mean, that's in order to survive, to fit in. But
Right.
I think they would have caught you if you had used the term "made love" to them. I think they would have caught you like, you know what, guys? I have so many girlfriends. I've made love to them. I think they would have caught you with that term. But I'm
But the
pretty
good
sure.
thing is that they're not that proficient in English, so they wouldn't know the
Okay.
nuance.
All right. So they didn't catch you on that, right? They're
Yeah.
Koreans. They're not really that good in English. Makes
Mm.
sense. Makes sense. Do you have any other stereotype there? I'm really interested. What's your stereotype of us again? Number two, perhaps.
Um, that men are do not show emotions. Men are just pure logical machine.
Thus, I agree with that statement. I am fully. No, okay. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
again, I think there's a lot of there is a truth to that. Yeah, I think there's a truth to that. So,
And yeah, and if I may add, because whenever there's conflict among the or between colleagues, men and women, usually the bosses, my Korean bosses would simply say, "Oh, for Christ's sake, stop being emotional. Stop being emotional. Emotions don't have a space in this work environment." So I don't like I don't want people crying. I don't want a lot of complaining. I don't want to hear any of these back and forth exchange of emotional claims or emotional interactions. They just want results. They just want you to do your job. So emotions really play a very little role in my work environment.
I think part of our training is not to show emotions. It's I think it's inculturated. I think you agree. You of course you grew up with with this circle as well. So you would know that you will be mocked if you cry, and
Yeah.
you will be instantly called gay or a woman if you are too emotional, if you get too sad. You cry, and so it's really built in. So there's a lot of truth to that stereotype again. Okay, all right.
Indeed, yes. Whenever I would have one-on-one session or a tutorial with them, I can be as expressive. I can be as expressive as I wanted to be, especially with my students of the same age. So there's definitely a generational difference between the young Koreans and the older Koreans. So with the young Koreans, I didn't care if I would cuss because, we're just being friends, but I would be their language trainer. But they would allow me, I guess, implicitly to be as expressive as I wanted to be. So I was able to say bad words to them, and they would laugh at at, at my words, and we would just laugh at the whole time, and that's fine. There's no issue, but it's I have never experienced that with the older students. I would always be serious with them, with the older ones, and it's pure business with the older ones. With the younger ones, I would mix business with pleasure, as they
Okay.
say.
Well, did you ever feel that, what maybe while talking to some of the younger Koreans, did you ever feel like, what, maybe this one I can show that I'm gay with this particular person. Okay,
Oh
did you
my!
ever?
Oh my! Ooh, I was I've been meaning to do that, but so a part of me a part of me was very hesitant to be explicit to my students, even the ones who I thought would be open, because believe me, there are students who are open to the topic related to LGBT, especially the women. I have women students too, and I would talk about gay rights. I would talk about the mistreatment of gays and lesbians in Korean culture, and they agreed with me that there must be change, there must be reform. So there's generational difference. There's also gender difference. So women are more open, I would have to say, to the LGBT concerns.
Well, that's really good.
Okay, I've always been open about my sexuality. I guess my parents already knew from the start that I was not a typical boy. Um, so although my father was an ex-military officer, of
Okay.
course I guess you can imagine. how he would how he would have wanted me to grow up, but I was, I guess, stubborn. So I would just do my own thing, and I would just do what I wanted. So I would play with, I would I would pretend to be a Miss Universe. I would
Okay.
I would play with my gay friends too. So I would play with the things my gay friends would play with, like, volleyball and Barbie dolls, etc. So I had no problems generally with my family. Although, of course, little things matter too. For example, they would say, "Oh, sayang, dapat lalaki ka na lang." Those little comments. They still exist, and it sounds like there's inherent insufficiency in being gay by with that kind of comment, and it's still part of the culture,
It,
and I guess those things wouldn't go away that easily.
so these, small but well, quite penetrating comments, I imagine. You hear this from your own family or just from friends or neighbors? How
Yeah,
from your own family?
I would yeah from I would hear them from my own family.
Even
And
now, even
uh,
at your age now.
yeah, even now,
Mm.
they would for example, my mom is taking a bath right now, so she's able to hear me, but let's pretend she's not listening.
Okay, all
So
right.
she would always push me to, hey, why don't you have a wife? Why don't you have a child? It's much better to have them, or else you would grow up sad and old, and nobody's gonna take care of you. Okay, well, maybe she has a point, but maybe she doesn't.
It's more like she doesn't. It's but are you an advocate of same-sex marriage?
Oh yes, yes, 100%. I'd love
Okay.
to get married to the to
To
to my future husband.
okay. I thought you were
I've
gonna.
been watching.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You,
I've been watching lots of YouTube videos of gay couples. I'm jealous of these YouTube couples, and they can adopt their own kids.
yeah, they
They
can
they can
legally.
they can be, yeah, and they can be as free as they want to be on camera or off camera. And it's just sad that in the Philippines, the influence of religion is still very large. And what can we do? I mean, there's a tone of despair, I guess. You really want to be free. However, the society is not ready, and you just need to ask yourself, when is it going to be ready? And that's a big question. I guess I have to wait for the answer.
And when you talk about, the readiness of people and the culture, you mentioned the church or the religion. So it seems to me that you are, let's say, associating the problem of our let's say homophobic culture to our religion. How can you elaborate on this insight?
Uh, well, we know majority of Filipinos are members of the Roman Catholic Church, and even though Pope Francis already kind of promoted same-sex relationship, or at least he did not criticize it the way the previous popes did. In the Philippines, though, you would hear a lot of bishops and priests who are still adamantly against same-sex relationship. So obviously, there's in the in our local scene, the priests and the bishops would still have a huge influence on their parishioners and members, and this goes all the way to our political structures, to Congress, to the Senate, especially those who are devout Catholics. So they have uh, they have a huge influence on how the laws are constructed and and debated. So
There's
uh,
yeah. You know, I can't help but notice there are too many deep breaths that you were taking while you're talking about these things. I think you have spent, you know, decent amount of time and a good amount of, let's say, intellectual reflection on this problem, and it does look like it is a problem. You know, and I think
mm,
our other guests actually agree that there is a problem with the church, huge problem with the church, regarding the homophobic culture of the Filipinos. You've always been expressive of your homosexuality from a young age, and people can see. Even though you have an ex-military father
right,
and a family that subscribes to religion, okay,
yeah.
and so that makes me think that, you know, you are some kind of a true rebel, to, you know, to a certain level, right? Because you rebelled on
Oh,
both counts.
how
You
could you figure me out?
isn't
You
it? Isn't
figured
it?
me out.
But it's kind of true, and I think that your weapon is critical thinking, because you yourself said that, you know, that it's
Right.
critical thinking that's led you to reflect on these things, on the reality of these things. And so
Mm,
I think the point right now, and what's unique, I guess, to you as a guest among our 7 guests here, is that, so the tool that you use for gender equality, you know, it's definitely not faith, and
right.
it's also not, well, of course you're compassionate, but that's not what we've been talking about. But your tool to promote gender equality is actually critical thinking.
Right. Yes. I remember when I was very young, I would argue with, I would argue a lot with my parents. I would always ask why. Um, I mean, so
So they were so annoyed by you, I guess.
of course they're so annoyed,
Okay.
and I would always get in trouble. You know,
Oh yeah,
they would always spank
definitely.
me. They would always, say bad things. But nonetheless, I would have this, I would have this attitude in me, all the way. I mean, up to now, because it's like there's an innate desire to know more. There's an innate desire to discover more, and it's like truth matters, right? So
Does.
truth really matters, and I think this is one of the things that drive me to still live my life, because if if truth doesn't matter anymore, then what are we here for? I mean, so it's an existential question, I guess. So
Wow, that's really appeals to me so much, because, you know, my training is actually philosophy. So I think you
mm.
should be a philosophy major and end up in poverty like me, instead of at least you know the truth. You know, employment sucks, salary sucks, you have no money, but you have the truth. Go chew on that. If you can eat it. No, but seriously, that is a great realization, and I think that's kind of, I really appreciate that this conversation a lot more, because uh, the usual narrative for gender equality is, of course, the most famous one is justice, right? Human rights,
Mm,
justice, and
mm,
then of course
right,
compassion, and then there's freedom,
right.
but critical thinking is not, well, it's not on the top of the, you know, of the tools to actually
Mm,
realize gender equality. But as a philosopher, or as a philosophy professor, not a philosopher, as a philosophy professor, I think it should be there, and I think your story basically your character survived and kept yourself intact because of your, well, critical thinking skills and how you would, I guess, value your intellect.
Yeah. Um, I
I
don't
understand.
know.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess it's both a gift and a curse. What I mean by that is, okay, yeah, you're able to question claims and assumptions. You're able to see through the lies behind the facade of, you know, facade or the appearance of truth. Um, but if you're living in a society that doesn't really appreciate questioning, questioning attitude, for example, they would tell you, why why do you keep on asking question? Why do you have to be a pain in the ass? Why do you always create trouble? Why do you always complain? Huh? How do you answer that? How do you respond to that? Do you need to reconcile? I mean, so I'm a bit conflicted really, but I'm siding with my critical thinking self still. Because I don't know, I guess I'm just a rebel. Even
You
though
are.
I get in trouble a lot, I still
You are.
side with, but this is the truth. But so that's my response.
Yeah, I think your life is difficult even if you were not gay. You know, I think it's gonna be challenging too because to be smart in the Philippines, that's not easy. To, you know, to use your head in a culture that's been programmed not to be smart,
Yeah.
that's not, that's punishing. And then you're gay too, so that's twice the challenge. But you're
What's
staying,
left?
but you're staying strong, and I think that that would serve as a real inspiration to well, younger members of the LGBTQ community who want to, well, endure, you know, the punishing culture of the Philippines when it comes on both counts, on being, you know, the smart shaming culture and of course the homophobic culture
Mm,
that several people such as yourself experience at the same time. So
yeah.
that's really something, you know, that I think is admirable.
I guess my message is this: stand your truth, and you know who you are, and you don't need to you don't need to please everybody. Just like what I said in the video, there's no need to please everybody because at the end of the day, you will not you're not pleasing anyone. I mean, you're trying to just just be yourself and do a really good job being a teacher, and you're going to be judged based on the impact you have with your students and the teaching community. And be kind to yourself also. Be as a teacher, be kind to yourself, and take it easy if you receive a lot of negative feedback or criticisms just because you are gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, or etc. Just push them aside because you know the truth about yourself. So yeah, and enjoy. I guess enjoy teaching even though it's difficult. There's beauty in teaching. There's an art to it, and just reflect on your purpose on Earth. So I guess this is my purpose on Earth.